Just let me know when you
All
need me
right.
to.
Okay, so you're starting now.
Okay, so basically, I left off by talking about the young man that tore up my room. He was eventually placed in an even smaller setting, and I never kept up with him. Fast forward, I left off at the integrated co-teaching classroom situation. A young man was transferred into our classroom. My co-teacher being male, um, they told us that he was transferred there because he has no respect for female authority. Last thing they should have told me, because I'm very forceful and I'm like, okay, he's going to respect this female type of thing. Which ties into something that was said earlier in the session, that the live session that we had earlier. Um, it all depends on your stance. Um, I stated before, I am no pushover. I am very much a disciplinarian, um, without laying hands on anybody. But I think that I do a very good job in getting my point across in terms of discipline. But that is a strategy that works for me because of the type of person that I am.
Okay. And so when you say, like, this kid got transferred to another classroom and, it was a smaller classroom, do you think that that helped him? Did he improve a little bit more or?
Okay, I really don't know because the way it works in the DOE, when you get to a more restrictive environment, then they're placing a different district,
Okay.
which oftentimes mean a different school building,
Oh,
which is
okay.
why I wasn't able to follow through to see if there was any improvement.
Okay. And one of the things that you kind of talked about a little bit was the fact that, okay, your your kids were in an inclusive classroom, right?
Correct.
Okay. So explain what an inclusive classroom means for those who
Mm-hmm.
may not know.
Okay. Well, it's the correct term is inclusion.
Okay.
Inclusion came about quite some years ago. You have 60% of the class as general education population, and the 40% is generally special education.
Okay.
So you have a mix of population in one room. There are two teachers in the classroom. One is a certified special ed teacher, and the other one is certified general ed, whether it be elementary or whatever their content area is.
Okay. And so in that classroom where you have a mix of kids who are in, general ed and kids who are in special ed, do you do you feel like when you do kind of these all clear methods and things like that, is that fair? Now, this was one of the questions that was on the blackboard. Do you feel like that's kind of fair? How do you balance that with kids who have special needs with kids who don't have special needs? Do you think that maybe it's not that great?
Um, it is not fair. It's not fair when a student comes to school to learn, and day by day they don't know if they will be safe. As I stated before, in education, safety is first.
Mm-hmm.
A kid cannot learn in an unsafe environment. So the minutes that we take in disciplining, if necessary, clearing a room, those are educational minutes.
Right.
Those are minutes that can be dedicated to that child's education.
Right.
So definitely, it's not fair to the students who are there to take care of their business, which is to get their education.
Right. Right. So do you think that maybe our students who have these disruptive issues and students who don't have these disruptive issues just in general, I know that it is situational and dependent, do you think it's better when they're apart or when they're together? Or what are some, well, I should say, what are the pros and cons? Maybe I'll put it that way. What are the pros and cons of having them apart, and what are the pros and cons of having them together?
I mean, ultimately, we live in a world where we all live together. as adults.
Mm-hmm.
There's no world for people with certain issues. We have to live in the world together.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming that I'm not a mental health professional,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming if it's very, very severe, there are services out there. Some may have to be committed to a psych setting.
So hospitalized, yeah.
Yeah, they have to be hospitalized. Thank you. I couldn't think of the term. They have to be hospitalized. So all that to say, there are pros and cons to it. The pros is you get to see people for who they are. You understand that we have different people in the world. They have different issues. And if you experience these things when you're young, it's not so much jarring when you become an adult.
Okay.
And as I stated before, the disadvantage of it is that the time spent disciplining a student who is out of control or clearing out a room for a student who is out of control, it takes away from other students' education.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You talked about the fact that in the world, outside of academia, there's sort of this, there are resources. Mental health professionals are available to help. And, if somebody has a severe mental disorder and it becomes necessary for them to be institutionalized, that's an option that we have. But, in a school, you don't necessarily have that in school. But I know that there are times when students are maybe suspended until they get psychiatric or psychological help. Is that something that you've seen happen a lot, or?
In all honesty, the school system somewhat mirrors our world outside, as you say, outside of academia. In the world, I feel there's a lack of mental health resources, which is why we see some of the things that we see on the streets. And it's the same thing in a school building. In a school building, when a child exhibits extreme behavior, I've seen a range of actions take place. I have had students that were too institutionalized because they do have schools for students who have been institutionalized.
Okay. Yeah.
I have students who've been moved to a different classroom or just have been moved to a more restrictive environment, meaning that, for example, as I stated, I was half of a co-teaching team in an inclusion environment. So if the child falls within the 40%, which is the percentage of students that are special ed, and they have some sort of behavior disorder and they're regressing instead of progressing, they may be moved out of an ICT because the professionals may feel that is not the best setting for him or her.
Okay.
And then they're placed into a smaller classroom setting, not necessarily institutionalized, but it all depends on the severity of the behavior.
Okay. Also, just going back again to sort of mental health resources, you said there's not a lot in schools. Yeah. Where you are, and thinking also back to the schools that you've worked at, how many of those schools had in-house mental health professionals, or was it one person for the district, or one person with several schools, or one person who came part-time, or how was it kind of set up?
Okay, in my current school, we have over 700 students, and there are 2 full-time guidance counselors for the entire school. Okay. My previous school, which is in a different neighborhood, different setting, we had approximately 250 students. With that school, we had 3 guidance counselors. And then we had a community-based organization come in and they provided a social worker.
Okay.
So there were 4 streams of support in that building.
Okay.
However,
okay.
although the school was much smaller, the need was very much extreme.
Why?
Very much
What
extreme.
made the difference in that school?
What made, I think, again, where the school was located, the school is located in a neighborhood that have a high percentage of homelessness,
Mm-hmm.
a high percentage of students with parents who were incarcerated, a high percentage of students whose parents themselves have mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
whether they want to recognize it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you have all of those factors compounded together, it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot. It was very, very challenging. Okay. I'd much rather work where I am right now with over 700 students. Do we have challenges there? Yes, we do. But it's nothing in comparison to where I came from with 250 students.
Really? Wow. And that's interesting that you said, I mean, all those things that you talked about are the things that in our chapter were named as risk factors for students. Mm-hmm. The fact that mm-hmm. students who have, difficulties in different backgrounds, have issues with different things that are going on in their home life, not having enough parental support, not having enough parental bonding, all of those things can contribute to kids having these, issues themselves.
You said it right there, the parental bonding. The long and the short of it is that, and I'm speaking as a parent myself, bonding, consistency, those are very, very key elements. So if I'm living at home and mom or dad get arrested, my stability now has been
shifted.
Yeah. Shifted. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there's a lack of that consistency is now gone. There's a new normal. I may understand what's going on. I may not understand what's going on. And I have some feelings about what's going on, but I don't know how to effectively communicate how I feel. Mm-hmm. So I start acting out.
Mm-hmm. And not having that outlet and not having sort of that social training to understand what your emotions are and then how to effectively deal with them, that results in like these behaviors. And that's one of the things that we talk about as well as mental health professionals, is helping kids and adults really to be able to label their emotions, understand what they're feeling, because people oftentimes will know things like mad or happy or sad or, afraid. But beyond that, they have no ability to identify and really expand their emotional vocabulary. So, frustrated or disappointed
or anxious,
can get expressed as anger, or, everything can get expressed as anger, even in things that may be just irritating. Irritation doesn't necessarily need to manifest itself as anger. But if you don't have any other coping mechanisms, don't have any other skills, then, just like that saying that says, when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail, So if the only emotion that I know how to express is anger, then everything makes me angry. Everything makes me upset. I did want to ask you, because I'm going to post an assignment for the students to do some meditation from this app that is something that can help relax you and different things like that. Have you, and I've seen this in different schools, have your schools instituted anything like that, meditation for kids who have like some of these issues? And if you've seen it done, how has it been implemented, and has it been helpful? What's your reaction to that?
Okay, I'll give you a scenario. My previous school, they used it, but it wasn't used school-wide. Okay. There is this Um, and it escapes me right now. Oh my God. It's a program, it's for free. Movement is involved. I can't think of the name of it right now. But part of my responsibility was to cover this kindergarten class. And keep in mind, I said kindergarten. And they were a handful, okay? The whole building, the entire building knew this class. They were notorious, okay? If you go in there, they would eat you alive, okay? It was pretty bad. And as I stated before, I am no pushover, and I am not going to allow a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds to make my life miserable. As I said before, that is my stance. So I did see videos and read articles about the meditation techniques, and that particular program, which escapes my mind right now, when I used to go in, I immediately put it up, and it took the kids through breathing exercises like yoga, and then at the end it would calm them down. And when it was over, I maintained that same tone through my 45-minute period in that room. And people would walk by and say, well, who's in there? Oh, I know it had to be Miss Spry because she wouldn't allow this. But I didn't use my usual forceful way because they're 4 and 5-year-olds, you know, they don't reason very well. However, by using that program, and they knew every Friday at 9:05 when I walked in, they got on the mat and positioned themselves for that routine, and I kept the flow going the whole period until it was over.
Okay.
So to answer that question, exercise do help because it's an outlet, you know. And when we're frustrated and we're upset, I mean, I went through a mild version with that with my daughter. She was a little bit frustrated with something, and she really wanted to curl up and cry, and I was on my way out for a walk, and I'm like, come on, let's go for a walk. And just by going for that walk, finding an outlet, it alleviated some of the stress. And I think that a lot of us don't realize that by engaging in activities to release some of the tension, it very well helps.
Yeah. And there's like neurobiological benefits to being engaged in exercise. Exercise helps with depression because it releases endorphins. And those who are my students who will remember from their intro to psych classes, endorphins are those chemicals that are released when you are in pain or when you get hurt or something like that. And the idea is that they try to help to dull that pain. And they're also kind of released when you laugh and when you are happy and when you engage in things that are exercise. So there is validity to the fact that, you know, treatment for some of these things can include, it's not necessarily a cure-all for everything, but it can include, you know, movement and stuff like that. And then also, you know, the meditation things are what we call mindfulness. So the idea of being present, the idea of being focused, the idea of knowing where you are and kind of being in tune with your body and being in tune with your surroundings. And it helps you to be less reactionary and more focused. So, you know, those are things that can be very helpful. So the students will, like I said, do sort of a little assignment there where they're going to be doing that,
Nice.
engaging in some of those things. So
Nice.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. And like I said, sorry about the technical difficulties from before. Even now, we're doing like a little, like I'm recording this using my phone because for some reason, like it just, I don't know, these apps just want to be, they want to be contrary today. I tell you, no matter how much preparation, it's just gonna do what it's gonna do. So whatever, we're winging it.
I do the same thing myself with a group of 10-year-olds. So imagine.
Yeah. I can't imagine how you're doing like Wi-Fi stuff with your class. That, have mercy. Have mercy. Have mercy.
It's working. They're enjoying it. They're happy to see me. I'm happy to see them. So
yay,
we're making it work. Yep.
Yeah, gotta do what you got.
With that said, as soon as we disconnect, I am going for my walk.
All right.
I'm making the best of this moment while most people are very anxious during this time. And I think it's very much well warranted. I am using this as an opportunity to center myself and to slow down. And one conscious change I've made, other than the obvious working from home, is I get out once a day and I take about a 1-mile walk, and I feel better, I sleep better. And if our students had the opportunity and the leisure to do the same, we would see a lot of improvement in behavior. And if we as adults, parents, if enough of us were aware of the benefits of mindfulness type of activities, physical activity, and how it helps the brain, I think that the world would be a better place. I really do.
Definitely. Well, thanks so much, Miss Spry. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.